Good evening and thanks for joining us. Cammie is off tonight. A tax break package offered to Kimberly Clark may not be dead yet, despite being pulled from the Senate floor today.
Bill intends to prevent the paper company from cutting 600 jobs in the Fox Valley. As we've been reporting now, the company announced plans earlier this year to close its Neenah Nonwovens and Fox Crossing Cold Springs plant as part of its global restructuring plan, a decision impacting more than 600 workers. News at 5 Jason Zimmerman joins us now live outside Kimberly Clark to explain why there's still hope for this bill. Jason.
Bill, I've spoken to a number of sources today who tell me this bill was pulled to give Kimberly Clark a chance to decide if there's an interest in the incentives package. And if the company does agree to the terms, the Senate will vote on it. However, this time there's no timetable attached to any of this. The Assembly previously approved the bill modeled after incentives given for the Foxconn project in southeastern Wisconsin. The tax credits on jobs for Kimberly Clark was expected to cost between $100 and $115 million over a 15-year period. Neenah Mayor Dean Crawford says he's been in touch with members of the Senate this afternoon.
They're telling me that a lot of the senators want to hear from Kimberly Clark. They want Kimberly Clark to make the decision. If they are going to say, then the state and some senators would be willing to potentially help them out with this bill.
This doesn't just affect one company. We have seen over the course of 6 or 7 months, we've seen this affect 5 plants and 1,400 jobs. This is an industry-wide problem and it deserves an industry-wide solution.
And if the Senate does not adjourn today, this bill can be brought back at any time for a vote. Senator Roger Ross' office also tells me a vote could take place in an extraordinary session. Reporting live in Neenah, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.
Jason, thank you. An update tonight on harassment claims within the Green Bay Police Department. A black female officer settles her claim with the city for $200,000. Target 2 Investigates first told you about the misconduct last month involving 9 officers on the night shift. Some of those officers resigned, others were suspended. An internal investigation found the female officer was the target of continued hazing and harassment. She resigned from the force. Chief Andrew Smith says paying her the settlement money is the right thing to do.
A 16-year-old girl remains in critical condition tonight after a school shooting this morning. A 14-year-old boy was also injured in a shooting at Great Mills High School. Their 17-year-old classmate, authorities identified as the gunman, died after a confrontation with a school resource officer. The officer was not hurt. The local sheriff says the gunman may have had a prior relationship with the girl who was shot. Now, that shooting comes as Governor Scott Walker continues to push his school safety plan for the state. The $100 million proposal establishes an Office of School Safety, requires mandatory reporting of any threats, and amends the bullying statute, among other changes.
It's incredibly important, as I've said before, no child, no teacher, no parent, no administrator, no guest to any of our schools in the state should ever not feel safe.
The governor has called a special session in the legislature to pass his plan. It's being considered today by the Assembly Education Committee. Republican senators are meeting privately to decide whether they will approve it. Democrats say it lacks tougher gun control measures.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, what if I loaded up that truck? I mean, that box. It really does get you kind of scared a little bit.
The search for a serial bomber becoming more desperate tonight after a 5th explosion, this time at a FedEx distribution center about an hour outside of Austin, Texas. It's believed the box contained nails and shrapnel. No one was seriously hurt. Just a few hours later, a second package was discovered by FedEx workers believed to have been sent by the same person. Authorities are analyzing it, hoping it might lead to a break in the case. 500 state and federal officials are investigating. Belt sticks and metal rulers. Those are just some of the items authorities say a Green Bay mother used to physically abuse her 3 young children. 42-year-old Kim Fruin faces 3 counts of repeated child abuse and 3 counts of child neglect after prosecutors say she repeatedly beat her kids with a number of items. New at 5, Ciara Gillespie read through the criminal complaint and talked to detectives about their case.
It's a pretty disturbing case.
Page after page describe abuse in this East Side home where a Green Bay mother used dozens of makeshift weapons to attack her 3 small children.
You know, it's going to take a little time to get an understanding, but yeah, it's concerning that a mom would do this to her kids.
According to the criminal complaint, Kim Fruin's kids, 2 girls and 1 boy, ages 12, 10, and 8, told police they had been, quote, hit with sticks and belts inside the home. What the children refer to as sticks ranged from 1.5 foot long wooden board to 4.5 or 5 foot long wooden boards, as well as metal spatulas and a metal curtain rod. According to this lengthy criminal complaint, each child had multiple scars all over their body. Some of the scars were old and others were red and scabbing, showing they were relatively new. When police officers asked children when was the last time their mother hit them, they told them that morning. Police visited the home last Friday after a tip from the children's pastor reported abuse in the home. The kids told her their mom threatened them, saying if they told anyone, they would be beaten or separated from each other. When police finally arrived at the home, Fruin refused to let them inside and lied about her kids being home. The criminal complaint says she pushed them out the back door and told them to run to their nearby father's house. In the complaint, a responding officer said, quote,
"In all of my time as a police officer, I've never dealt with a parent who seemed more evasive and afraid of showing their children to police and CPS than she did."
Strong statement.
The children are now living with their father. Fruin is set to make her next court appearance next week. Reporting in Green Bay, Ciara Gillespie, Action 2 News.
A chilly and windy day today, but we are on an upswing. Severe weather specialist Brad Spackwitz joins us now from Storm Center 2 to plot out tonight's conditions. Brad.
Well, let's begin with some temperatures right now around northeastern Wisconsin. Bear in mind the average high for this time of year is 41 degrees, and we were a far cry from that today. Currently, mostly upper 20s, a handful of spots right around the 30-degree mark. But with the wind, for many of us, it feels like teens throughout Green Bay, the Fox cities along the lakeshore. Not quite as harsh for some of you inland, but still not nice outside. We've had plenty of clouds. We still have plenty of clouds. You see some snow off to the west. It never reaches us. We just stay wrapped up in the clouds and the blustery winds for your evening forecast. Good news for tomorrow, though. A little bit of a brighter sky and less wind. How does that sound? We'll check it out with the details coming up with Pinpoint Predictor in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Brad. As we first reported last week, the first elk hunt in Wisconsin history will take place this fall. At 5, Jeff Alexander explains how elk hunting opportunities should expand in the years to come.
It's a mystical sound Chris McCool knows well, having hunted out west.
To hear them bugle and the passion behind that, and they're so large, but the meat is fantastic as well.
Which is why in May, McCool,
Yeah, very interested in that.
plans to apply for a Wisconsin elk tag, despite long odds of getting one.
You probably have a better chance of winning the lottery than you would getting an elk tag.
22 years after their reintroduction in the Clam Lake area,
it's a major milestone in conservation, in Wisconsin.
More than 200 elk now make up the state's northern herd. And while just 10 tags will be issued for the 4-week inaugural hunt beginning October 13th, DNR wildlife biologist Jeff Pritzel says the number of lucky hunters drawn will increase in the years to come.
A population will kind of break over a threshold where the growth will start to become exponential, and then there'll be this more rapid growth period between now and whenever they hit that carrying capacity on the landscape.
Pritzel says the DNR's management goal is 1,500 elk in the Clam Lake herd.
Coolest experiences you could have as a sportsman, getting to hunt one of the larger game animals here on the continent, here in your home state.
Jeff Alexander, Action 2 News, Green Bay.
Quite a sound there, isn't it?
It is quite the sound. Well, tragic situations across the nation continue to fuel discussions on mental health.
One event going on right now in the Fox Valley is making sure first responders called to those situations are not forgotten in those conversations. That's coming next on Action 2 News.
From WBAY TV, Bill Jartz and Cammie Rapson, this is Action 2 News at